Good Friday, what the heck? Welcome to Friday, everybody. I trust that you are awesome, fabulous, amazing, and celebrating Friday. I love Fridays. I also love Mondays and every other day of the week. I just happen to really like today as well. So here's what I wanted to talk with you about this morning. It's not this morning, it's now the afternoon because we are late. So my husband and I tend to solve all the problems of the world and laugh and flirt a lot in our morning walks. And this morning, hey Cal, we were talking about all things soul contracts. We were talking about sliding doors moments. We were talking about different decisions and choices that get made, things that get celebrated that maybe shouldn't be celebrated in this world, and things that are not, that probably should be. So one of the things that we were talking about today, and this really leads into, for me, think about this, the lens that I want you to hear this through is thinking about intentionality, charting your course, as in your life course, your path essentially, and you really being in alignment and trusting your intuition at every step of the way. So we were talking this morning about how not even about how we met, but just how different choices, we were talking about probable futures actually. So the way that I like to think about our probable futures is like this. So one of the theories that has been posed to me that I'm really curious about is how before we're born, before our soul is inserted, if you like, into being a baby, we've got this ability to see a lot of different probable futures of how our lives might pan out. And we get to make the choice as to where it is that we insert, and we agree to the kind of life that we're about to experience for whatever reason you choose to believe. So it's a little bit esoteric today so far. So now some of you might just be like, that's fine, I'm not completely sold on this idea, but I think it's kind of curious, and I think it's kind of interesting. So the way that I kind of view this is if it's like a tree, right? So we've got this possible future, we've got this possible future, this possible future, this possible future, and this possible future. And then because we're human, we can see, before we come on down, we can see all of these potential futures, and we're human, and then we're put into this body, and we're also given this beautiful gift of free will choice. And we have moments that happen in our lives, and I would suggest that you can probably backtrack throughout your whole entire life and be like, yeah, right there, that was the decision that changed that track. It's almost like a choose your own adventure book, right? It's like, well, you can do this and this might happen, or you can go do this and this might happen. So this all stemmed off the back of a conversation that I was having with a client yesterday. Hey, Jess, beautiful long-term client of mine, been a client of mine since actually 2013. And we were chatting about how different things that have happened in our lives, and she asked me, given my history in a previous domestic violence relationship, she said, surely, is there anything good that came out of that? And I said, well, actually, yeah, there has been some really good stuff that's come out of that. I've grown as a person, I'm resilient, I know my own strength. It gives me the ability to empathize with people in a really different kind of way. I don't think it should be celebrated, obviously, domestic violence, but I think the fact that I'm on the other side and I've rebuilt and everything else that I've been able to achieve and do, hey Georgina, is, I think it was a shitty experience, but there have been lots of good to come as a result. And I was saying to Dom this morning, I said, if I hadn't gone through that, then I might be a different person today. Who knows what kind of branch my life and world would have taken off in. And he's like, yeah, that's kind of curious. So then we started talking about these different choices and these different decisions that we make along the way. And what he was saying that the night, so what happened, like I left Westpac so I worked for Westpac for 12 years, but there was a period of time where I left for about 6 months and I went and worked for Optus. And Dom also worked for Optus, and so we're on a call centre, working in a call centre on the floor in this call centre. And he was a couple of rows back from me and watching the back of my head, and I was facing the other way. And I'd actually I'd kicked my ex out and all of this other stuff, and I really needed the stability of being in an environment that wasn't where I wasn't being paid financially based on target earnings. I just needed to know that I could turn up to work, get paid what I was told that I'd get paid, and not have to have that extra pressure. You guys can probably appreciate that. There was enough pressure going on in my world without worrying about whether the finances would come on through. So on my last day, it was a Starlight Day. You know, the Stars for Starlight Day, one of the charity fundraiser events here in Australia. And they make these squishy balls and pens and stuff like that. So I was going around this floor of like 120 call centre employees selling them Stars for Starlight Day on my last day of work. And, you know, I was just jibber-jabbering, talking to everybody, and I happened to sell something to Dom, and he said, oh, like, you're leaving? And I said, yeah. And I said, oh, we're going down to the pub after work if you want to come down for a drink. So we did that. We got to chatting, not even, like, I was so not interested in relationship or even seeing anyone at all. And we talked about being in town the following night. He was going to be out with a group of friends. I was going to be out with a group of friends. And he said, oh, we should catch up and have a drink. I said, yep, that's great. Here's my number. Thought nothing more of it. Then the next night, I get this message from this random person saying, hey, you in town? I'm like, sorry, who is this? And he said, oh, it's Dom. We were chatting last night. And I said, oh, yeah, we've just come out of puppetry of the penis. And so this is in Adelaide. We're about to go into the casino, go have something to eat, and then go to the casino for dancing. And he's like, oh, well, you guys should come down to where we are. And I'm like, no, we're going to the casino. If you make it there, that's great. And if not, that's totally cool. The casino was a bit, it's like a bit more old schooly kind of dancing, where the clubs that he was at was a little bit more doof, 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 doof kind of dancing. And it wasn't that kind of night that night. So we're dancing away and whatever, and then I had this tap on the shoulder, and Dom's rolled up with his, dragged all of his mates down. It's really fucking hilarious. Dragged all his mates down, we've danced the night away, he's put me in a cab with a friend of mine, and that was that night, and we agreed to catch up the next day on the phone, and we started dating after that. But what he was telling me, what he reminded me of this morning, hey Margaret, was that he had this other girl in the club that he was at with all of his friends, where they were listening to his music, that he loved, and carrying on and whatever. And his mates are like, no man, just stay here. Just stay here, it'll be fine, just stay here. And he's like, this other girl came up and she'd asked him if he would go off to another club or whatever with her and his mates. And he said no, he decided to come and meet me. So it was just this real, it was a very clear, well, if he did this, we were going to catch up again, and if he did that, then we probably weren't, because I wasn't really thinking anything of it, actually, to be honest, back then. So it was kind of really interesting, this sliding doors moment that really impacted both of our lives, there on out. I mean, we're still together now, however many years later, 15, 16 or something years later, married for years, been together, got kids, la 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 la, all as a result of this sliding doors moment. But for him, it's like, I guess, and I'm not saying that this happens every time, but there are choices and decisions that we make that do absolutely shape our probable future. It shapes our path, it shapes our journey. for me, one of the big sliding doors moments was taking the leap of faith and actually handing in my resignation to a corporate organisation where I'd had safety and security for essentially 12 years. It was a really big freaking deal. And had I not done that, who knows where we would have been. It would have been a very different kind of experience and life that we're living now. So just give me 2 seconds, guys. So I guess what I wanted you guys to think about today, and what I really wanted to talk into today, is more often than not, when we're faced with two choices, whatever that might be, we've been conditioned to analyze, to dissect, to logic, to go, well, 1 + 1 is 2, and yep, that kind of makes sense. We're programmed to go, all right, well, is this going to create a return on investment? Does this make logical sense? Now, I'm not saying that there's not a place for that, because I actually do believe that there is, but I think from the onset, most of us, if we look at it, we have a knowing, an inner knowing that, yes, this is the right decision. And when we decide that, yes, this is the right decision for me right now in this moment, then the how and the what then tends to become apparent, right? So you might decide, I know this happens with every time I invest with a new mentor, I've already decided, before I've even had a conversation with them, before I've done anything at all, I already know that I'm going to work with them. It's just a matter of it's just well, I just know that I have to. It's just done. It's almost like it's already happened. And then what happens is okay, well, now I need to go and do that. Oh my gosh, how much is it? What? Vomit. All right, that's cool. We're going to go do this, and then the rest will work itself out. And it always does. Always. Because when we're when we're working, no, it's not even working. When we're trusting that we're going to always make the right choices, when we're trusting that we're always going to make the right decisions, from a place of it being aligned and in our highest good and things like that, if we're not trying to force a decision, more often than not, the how becomes apparent really quickly, the how you're going to make it work. So there's been times where I have had $10,000 in the bank, and I've literally gone and invested all of that with a mentor, and I'm left with nothing. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily the right financial decision to be making every time. However, I also know that with every dollar I spend, I'm always going to make a return, because that's just what happens. It's always what happens, only 100% of the time, right? And I've had some crappy mentors, and I've had some great mentors. So I guess where I'm going with that is that if you've got that, if you're coming from a place of intentionality, knowing that you're always going to make the right decision, that you can't possibly make the wrong decision ever, and you're kind of going, all right, so yep, this is what I'm going to do, it's going to happen naturally, okay, great, let's go take the action, the aligned action to making it happen. You've got the intentionality there, then everything tends to flow so much more easily, and then we can get into some of the logic stuff if that's what you really need to do. But I think that too often what we do as particularly analytical human beings is because of our conditioning and the teaching and the school system and, everything else that we get propaganded with, from birth, is that we're programmed to not feel first. We're programmed to really kind of think first. So if we can stop that a little bit, and instead of going, well, let me think about that, instead of going like that, go, well, actually, how do I feel about this? Does this feel really good? Jess, I'm so glad that you love that. Thank you. It's always, it's like the visible event that I put on last year, which was actually called Sales and Marketing Spice School. So last year I put on a 4-day event, and at the beginning of the year I was just like, you know what, it just feels like I need to do this. It feels like the right choice. It feels like the right decision. Yes, it's going to cost me, $15,000 to put on that I didn't have in my bank account, but I knew that it would work. I just knew that it would work, and it did, because it always does. I've got tickets booked to go to the States to speak at a 2-day conference in next month, actually. And I just had a chat with a conference organizer today, and he said, oh, look, there's been some changes to this event, and I could have flipped out because it's not going to be run in the way that it was planned, and I could have lost my shit. I could have gone, well, that's really shit, and I'm flying all of this way, and I'm spending all this time, and I'm spending all this money, and, blah, 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 blah. And instead, I'm just like, well, I know that by saying yes to this last year, and I know that by trusting the process and everything else, it's just going to be like, okay, cool, that's great. What else can we do to make this work? And actually, that was just what I had in my head. And he started flinging around all of these different ideas, and I'm like, you know what, that sounds really great. It sounds aligned, it sounds awesome. I just trust that it will all work out, because it always does. And this is the point about intentionality. This is the point about manifestation. This is the point around trusting that everything is always going to be okay, no matter how big that fucking cliff is, that you're always going to be okay, and that you're always making the right decisions, particularly if you're coming from, does this feel right? Does this feel aligned? And then not second guessing it. Everything will always work out either the way that you think that it will, or better. And I think that what's just happened this morning, which is really freaking cool, is it's like, well, we'll do this time, and then we'll get this event of yours filled up, because I'm also running an event over there following this weekend. And then he's like, and then you'll come back in June and we'll do it all again. And I'm like, fuck yeah, like that's awesome. So, everything has a way of kind of working out. If you let go of that, well, that didn't happen the way that I thought it was going to, and just allowing yourself to kind of ease into it. One of those sliding doors moments for you might have heard me talk about the Queen Code of late. And we had the first lesson went live yesterday. Now, the comments in the group following that lesson have been really amazing. We've had massive shifts in mindset. We've had shifts in feelings. We've had shifts in reminders. We've had shifts in things kind of really sort of falling into place. We're putting in place some new habits and really setting some incredibly clear intentions for how they want to feel, for how they want to be, and for how their future is actually going to look. Now, in terms of how this plays in with you, and I guess this is almost like a sliding doors moment. This is what I was talking about with Don this morning. I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like I actually said to him this morning, he said, how many people are in the Queen Code? And I told him. And then I've come home and I've looked in the group and I'm like, oh, I thought there was like 2 more people in there than what's in there. Like, that's really weird that I got that number wrong. So I guess this is a call out to you if you've been kind of going, you know what, I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Tap into your feeling. And if it feels aligned, then jump in. I'm opening it up for keeping it open for another day. You can, which means up till midnight tonight. There are so many options in terms of payment arrangements and stuff like that. I've tried to make it as simple and as easy as possible for you guys to be able to get into that. It doesn't matter whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a business owner, whether you're in multi-level marketing. It actually makes absolutely no difference to me for this particular program. So if you're curious about that, I've just popped the link in the comments in there. You can go and have a look. It will be closing tonight. So I'll pull that down and it will be no longer available. But I guess, this could be one of those sliding door moments for you, right? How many times have you looked at stuff and you're like, yeah, but no, but, yeah, but no, but, when you know in your soul that it's just like, you know what, this is actually what I'm supposed to do. You know in your heart of hearts, you know what, this is what I'm supposed to do. So if that's how you're feeling, then come on in. You've got 12 hours. 12 hours to jump on in, and it would be an absolute honor and a privilege to share this training with you and have you be a part of the Queens, because they're just a bunch of freaking amazing men and women. So that is that. Be aware of your sliding doors moments, even when you're in it, and realize that whenever you are faced with two choices, that could be an actual pivotal moment where you end up going down that path or you end up going down that path. It's really quite extraordinary. Jess, I'm so glad I jumped in. Yes, me too. It's just so freaking good. And you've been through a bunch of my stuff over the years. So, you know, I'm incredibly honored and feel very privileged to have you in there as well. You're awesome, as are everybody in there. But put on that queen, baby. Queen, put on that crown, baby, and let's freaking rock it. So meanwhile, have a beautiful and amazing Friday, what's left of it. I'm going to go and do a coaching session, so I'm really excited about that. And then I get to go and pick up my daughter, who has been away on school camp all week, which has meant that the house has been very, very quiet and weird. So have a really awesome Friday, everybody. I'll talk with you all tomorrow. If you've got questions about anything, message me, email me, ping me, whatever it is that you need to do. Go rock on, get out there, go help some people, get visible, and have a whole shit ton of fun doing it.